trial, the Murdaugh trial, I mean, that I've been following the last few weeks, over the last week, really has really helped me a lot. And you and I really, since the day I met you, have been like continually like at the exact same like sort of pace. And I sort of and I feel buoyed. It's not, I mean, I joke about racing you to 100 because I want to see if you can get to 100 tomorrow, God bless, do it, go for it. You know, it's like it's not like a competition type of thing, but but you do drive me because I feel like we're in the same
92 points. Yeah, no, and our people are all watching each other's channels. I mean, you know, I don't think that our viewers are largely watching, you know, other people's channels because frankly, we're the only people with good takes.
Yeah, no joke.
So much legal there. Yeah, there's a lot of bullshit. But you know, and especially with the Murdaugh trial, because there's so much out there that's just it stands to get mad about. I'm glad I was watching a clip of you getting mad about the attorney-client privilege stuff, where they're just letting in attorney statements, and it's like, say fucking no. Like when they ask you to testify, say I'm not talking about that, because we've got case law on the books that they can throw you in jail for that. They can do that. You're going to win that on appeal 100 out of 100 times because they're going to stand up for attorney-client privilege. Attorneys are self-interested. They're not going to let that fly. So just say, hey, sorry, I think that's attorney-client privilege. So fuck you. I'm not answering that question, counselor. And like, that's what I would do. As Alex, I would have said, fuck you.
You're referring to the cross-examination of Alex Murdaugh on Friday. They had, in a span of 10 minutes, I actually went back and rewatched it, in a span of 10 minutes, a Fifth Amendment violation followed by a Sixth Amendment violation. And if you look at the way they went on the record after the lunch break, when they came back from the lunch break, when they went on the record, they really only argued the Fifth Amendment. They really did not argue the Sixth Amendment. And I agree with you. I think the Sixth Amendment claim was even stronger. The Sixth Amendment claim was that when he was questioned by Cray Waters, that
he fucking nuts. That guy is nuts.
Yeah, that he was basically saying, you didn't even tell your lawyers until November 2022. They still thought that you never went down to the kennels. That, first of all, he was citing some stupid documentary which was filmed a year and a half earlier when Jim Griffin was on the documentary, saying, you know, he wasn't even at the kennels that night, and it was filmed like a year earlier and aired in November 2022. And what he told his attorneys or didn't tell his attorneys is not anyone's friggin' business, not the jury's business, my business, anyone's business other than his own attorney. It's between him and his attorney. And for the DA to get up there and start talking about what he told or did not tell his own attorneys, and now you're putting him in a position for him to respond by saying, yes, I did. I mean, what's he supposed to say to that if that's not what the question is? And that's clearly a call to violate his basic Sixth Amendment, fundamental Sixth Amendment right, of a right to counsel, which the Supreme Court has interpreted as including a right to not have to reveal what you tell your counsel, and for the DA to ask that question, the judge not to object to it. He'll object to a leading question from the defense, but not to object to that. Not only not to object to it, but when the objection is raised, to say, well, you're not entitled to right to privacy when it comes to a public documentary. That's not what the question was. The question was, did you ever tell your attorneys?
Yeah, that wasn't the question. That was not the question. The judge is asleep on the bench. He's just not there, or he's actively he's actively laying down cover fire for the prosecution. I actually think that he's more. I lean on the side of he's in the tank for the prosecution more than he's just tuned out, because he's there physically. So it's easier for us to tune out when we're not there physically, but he's there in that room. So I don't think he's tuning out. And frankly, that's why I tuned out of that trial, because it became a sham it's an injustice. This trial has become a huge injustice. The second they brought in the financial crimes, even before that was problematic, but when they brought in the financial crimes, I'm like, okay, this has become something that is not a murder trial. And certainly this is not the trial of the century, unless you want to say, you know, this is the embarrassment of the century in terms of what they presented for prosecution. But this is a sham of a murder trial. I have no doubt that he'll be convicted on many, if not all, of those financial crimes. I have no doubt.
I hope he is. He's a jerk and a thief.
This is not. Yeah, he is. If he admits to these crimes, which it seems like he is. It seems like on the stand he admitted to them, right? So assuming he's guilty of those, I'm still being very careful about that because he's not convicted yet, right? But assuming he's convicted of those, great. He's a piece of shit. He's an asshole. He's a horrible person, but he's not. I haven't seen the burden of proof to show that he's a murderer. Right. You haven't proven to me that he's a murderer.
Right. It's kind of, and the lack of a motive, the lack of a timeline, the lack of any theory presented by the case as to we don't even know what color shirt they think he was wearing. Was he wearing the blue shirt? Was he wearing the t-shirt? They seem to think he was wearing the t-shirt by all the strips of cloth and testing they did on it. And then they're showing him wearing the blue shirt. At what point do they think he changed shirts? He clearly changed at some point. So everything about this case, the fact that there's a forensic alibi, that basically that a half a mile away from the house at a time we know he's by his car in his house, that someone is manipulating the phone in a way that could not happen by the phone activating on its own. But the only way that when there's testimony, the only way it could have happened is if someone like said, "Hey Siri, turn on my phone," or try pressing a button on the phone.
Right.
There's no way that phone could have activated. So someone besides him was holding that phone after we believe Maggie was killed, a half a mile away from where he's about to jump into a car and start driving. It's just asinine that this has gotten as far as it has. I think he's a jerk. I think he's a terribly evil person. He literally steals from orphans, his own client orphans. He takes them on as a client, and not just steal, just to let you know how awful, terrible human being this guy is. His maid in 2018, trips and falls on his own property. And then he tells the kid, the orphan kid, who, by the way, looks like Forrest Gump, like a weaker version of Forrest Gump. I'm not kidding. And I'm saying this to mock the kid, but to tell you what it's the sort of person when you see him, you feel sympathy for him. Yes, and Alex, instead of feeling that sympathy,
hold on, Joe. I know exactly the person that when you feel him, I feel sympathy for him, and he looks a little bit like Forrest Gump, and that's my good friend Meme Copium. Josh, how's it going?
Yes, exactly. It's like
we stealing from orphans in this channel? Yes. We're stealing from orphans? Yes.
So what I'm hearing is a shit show, basically, is what's going on in South Carolina. Just a gigantic clusterfuck.
I have to tell you what a terrible human being this guy is, and I still don't want him convicted of murder. Not
man. Come on,
Alex,
Joe.
Alex, I'm talking Alex Murdaugh here, okay? This guy, his maid falls, goes into a coma for weeks and on his property and dies without ever waking up. He goes to this kid who, like I said, looks like Forrest Gump. Like I mean, really looks like Forrest Gump, but like a weaker version of it, and tells him, "You should sue me because I have $500,000 in insurance. So sue me, and I'll represent you." How am I represent you? I guess it's his wife is the owner of the house, so he's like, "I'll represent you, and they'll find witnesses who say that she tripped over the dog, not over her own 2 feet, because if she tripped over her own 2 feet, there's no suit at all. So you have to basically say that it's some fault of the homeowner." And he tells her, "I got $500,000. You come sue me." He actually had $5 million in insurance. Didn't tell little Forrest Gump about this. And Forrest Gump is up there on the stand saying, "And yeah, he did. And he told me that me and my brother will each get $100,000 each on this $5 million insurance coverage." He was planning from day one to steal from him. And then the kid gets up there and he's like, they're like, "Well, why are you the representative for your brother?" He's like, my brother's he's a little slow." And it's like,
no,
oh,
yeah,
man.
I didn't hear you said he was a little slow. Oh God!
Wow.
This a-hole. What a jerk. What a terrible person. And he ended up not even giving them the stupid $100,000 to keep them happy, but he kept every dime of it. And after he got the settlement, said, "Oh yeah, it's a tough case. We're still working on it." I mean, he's a dark, terrible human being. There's just like almost no way possible he could have killed his own son or any motive. And that's why I don't want to see him convicted on this. I've been rambling since I came in here. I'll give the show back to you.
Look, listen. It is a travesty of due process, and that's something that I said is the problem. And I think we see that across our system right now. Is just I'm not even asking for much anymore, Joe. I'm just asking for people getting their basic. The basic fair administration of justice. Like, I'm not asking for advocating for some crazy position or trying to roll back things to the 1812s. I'm just saying, look, he has certain rights, like to attorney, to not incriminate himself, to not have to face charges that are not before him in the court. These are basic rights, and these are all being violated in the Murdaugh trial. But one right that's never violated is your right to enjoy yourself with a nice cold beverage. So I see Meme Copium. You've got some of our favorite Nika Black. Or is that just regular Nika? Yeah. That's regular Nika.
This is the high Nika.
This is high Nika. Yes.
Yes. If I see Andrew get $100 super chat, I'll take a shot because it is 9 a.m. in Japan, so you're gonna have to pay if you want to see it.
It is 9:21. It is 9:21 in Korea as well. So
I have to say though, like I used to be a big Suntory guy. But these days, I can well and truly say I'm a Nika lover. So
you're a Nika lover, yeah. You're a Nika lover.
Yeah.
Here's to your 90,000, my friend. I look forward to celebrating 9 million with you.
Yes, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. All those Indians and Chinese, we got it. Cheers.
Cheers, gentlemen. I would drink with you, but I don't drink alcohol anymore. So
I'm not familiar with anime guy, so I'm Joe. I apologize for coming in.
This is Brandon. No, you're good. It's Brandon, the anime guy.